What if your greatest fears could become the source of your unbreakable strength? The secret lies not in running from fear, but in mastering it, turning those dark moments into stepping stones for growth. Dare to discover the powerful Stoic techniques that transformed Marcus and can transform you too. How Marcus turned fear into power. Stoic Emotional Alchemy, compiled and published by Stoic Mindfulness. Lesson 1. The moment fear took hold. At the edge of every great journey, there comes a moment. A breathless instant, much like the hush before a storm, where fear quietly enters the heart. It slips in like a shadow at twilight, subtle and familiar, yet carrying with it an ancient power that can freeze even the boldest soul. Imagine standing alone at the mouth of a cavern, the air cool and unmoving, as if you were an archer whose arrow trembles just before release. This is the birth of fear. Not the roaring monster so often depicted, but a silent summons that creeps into the back of your mind and quietly shapes your every decision. This moment of fear is not reserved for the battlefield or the crisis. It lives within everyday choices, giving voice to honest thoughts in a meeting, facing the honest truth about what you desire, or daring to chart a new course when the familiar feels safe. Inside, you may feel the whisper. What if I fail? What will others think? These questions weigh heavy, and in seeking to protect yourself from pain, you may find yourself paralyzed, caught in the silent grip of self-doubt. It is a struggle known to all who dare to move beyond what is comfortable. And while its presence is universal, how you respond to this shadowed moment defines your path. Perhaps it manifests as heart pounding before a pivotal conversation, palms sweating as you consider pursuing a dream, or the urge to retreat from criticism, shrinking from your own potential. The essence is always the same, an inner trembling, a sense that some unseen tide might drag you away from where you truly wish to go. Fear, in its subtle strength, holds the power to either guard or hinder, to either shield you from unnecessary danger, or, more often, to hold you back from what you are meant to do and become. Here lies the problem most encounter on their journey of emotional mastery and self-discipline. Fear is misunderstood as solely an enemy to be vanquished, a foe to be outwitted. Many try to reason with it, suppress it, or ignore it, only to find it returns larger and even more menacing. In trying to silence the trembling within, people often lock themselves in stagnation, trading the living fire of growth for the cold comfort of predictability. Yet, the true challenge is not to rid yourself of fear, for it is a natural and ancient companion, but to greet it for what it is, a signal that you are on the shores of possibility. Imagine instead acknowledging the moment fear takes hold as the unveiling of a secret doorway, marking where the terrain of your comfort ends and the territory of your potential begins. Rather than shrinking away, what if you simply paused and recognized the presence of this shadow? The solution is less about overcoming and more about witnessing, standing in that silent moment with a curious, unwavering gaze. The transition from paralyzed to powerful starts the moment you notice the exact point where fear enters. The Stoics, those silent ancient guides, understood that the mind is not a fortress to be defended against every adverse emotion, but a garden to be cultivated. When you look squarely at fear without immediate flight or fight, you perform the first act of alchemy, turning base instinct into conscious choice. The beauty is that you do not need extraordinary tools to do this. Just a willingness to pause, to become the silent archer who, sensing the onset of trembling, steadies themselves and regards the distant target. This moment of observation, this calm survey of your innermost reaction, begins to shift your experience from being captive to being captain. The fire that could consume you becomes the hearth around which your will is forged. So, the power of this lesson is hidden in plain sight. When you stop and notice fear, feel it settle in your chest, observe the thoughts that swirl around it, the impossible begins to dissolve. You awaken a sense of direction even amid the fog of dread. By holding this gaze with gentle firmness, you start to train your mind to turn emotional chaos into a well of control that others sense but cannot name. While fear marks the boundary where comfort ceases, it also marks the beginning of mastery. In these vital seconds, when the wave first rises, you have the chance to become the silent Stoic, the unfazed soul who greets every sensation as a teacher, every pang as a signpost, every tremor as an invitation. Language as simple as breathing, this wisdom endures. Do not run from the first chill of fear, nor let it dictate your step. Notice it. Breathe. In that conscious pause, you make room for choice rather than reflex, for growth rather than retreat. Each time you do, the moment fear takes hold becomes less an end and more an opening, a doorway leading to the deeper corridors of your own undefeatable self. Through such mindful welcoming, you discover not how to be unafraid, but how to use fear itself as the silent engine that propels your journey of transformation onward. Whenever fear arises, pause and breathe deeply, letting yourself notice where it settles in your body. Observe its shape and texture in your mind without judgment, just gentle curiosity. Each time you do this, you build real strength and turn panic into awareness. Soon, you'll find yourself steadier, braver, and actively shaping your responses. Embrace this simple practice every day as the first step toward mastering emotional alchemy. Next, you'll learn how silent observation can give you even more control over your mind. Share your journey below. Subscribe, like, and let us grow stronger together. Lesson 2. Observing without immediate reaction. Between stimulus and response, there is a moment as delicate and silent as dawn breaking over water. It is there, within that breath of stillness, that the true work of mastery begins. Imagine yourself as a ship anchored in a gentle harbor. The sea around you restless with tides and passing storms, yet your vessel and your thoughts remain moored, unmoved by every gust. It is in that space of tranquil observation that a person first senses their real power. For what is not reacted to immediately can become an opportunity for understanding, not merely survival. Every day presents moments where emotions surge like crashing waves. A sharp criticism in a meeting, a friend's careless remark, a stressful email rattling into your carefully built schedule. In these moments, it is all too easy to let instinct take hold and lash out, retreat, or tumble into self-doubt, as if your ship were pulled along by the wild currents. You may find yourself stung by anger, stilled by anxiety, or swamped by the need to defend your ground, often before you even realize it. This inner conflict is familiar, and it can make you feel like the emotional world is one of constant, unpredictable weather, leaving you powerless in its path. The root of the problem is that reactions, especially swift, emotional ones, often promise relief but only lead to greater regret or misunderstanding. The urge to answer immediately, defend without pause, or rush to explain yourself is powerful because it feels like action. Yet, these hasty replies rarely reflect your deeper intentions. They are more like arrows shot blindly into fog, hurried, unsteady, and unlikely to reach their mark. When caught in the storm of emotion, your choices get clouded, and the legacy of those moments lingers long after the winds die down. Relationships suffer, self-respect is chipped away, and confidence in your own judgment erodes, slowly but surely. But what if you learn to step off the battlefield and simply watch? Enter the transformative practice of observing without immediate reaction, the silent art of standing still while the winds wail around you. This ancient wisdom, pastoral and uncluttered, is at the heart of Stoic resilience. Picture the seasoned archer who, rather than losing an arrow at the first sign of movement, studies the wind, listens for the faintest sound, and feels the curve of the bow in his hands. This observation holds both the act and restraint in perfect tension. In becoming the witness to your own surge of emotion, without judgment, without immediate movement, you begin to unlock the deepest well of control. The core of this solution is brilliantly simple, yet endlessly profound. By noticing your feelings without immediately acting on them, you give yourself the rarest of gifts: perspective. Perspective allows the immediate sting to dull and the surface disturbance to settle until the truth at the bottom becomes visible. This isn't suppression or denial. It's a form of loving discipline where you choose to explore rather than be swept away. In this new posture, emotions become guides, not masters. You stand with your mind like a clear lake, reflecting all, accepting all, but neither drowning nor distorting under each ripple. Over time, embracing the space between stimulus and response brings many rewards. Your words become more thoughtful, your reactions less driven by insecurity or habit. Decision-making matures, relationships deepen, and an aura of silent strength starts to gather around you, attracting trust and respect. You become the silent Stoic, the unmovable ship in the sometimes chaotic harbor of life. Others sense your steadiness and are drawn to it, though they cannot always say why. In this still point, you build a hidden reserve of inner fire, one that fuels your journey, undaunted, aware, and always aiming for what matters most. Through patient, open observation, the emotional storms of life lessen their sway, and what once seemed unbearable becomes a source of wisdom and fresh resolve. The next time emotion surges, pause, breathe, and silently watch what unfolds within you before responding. Just this mindful observation nurtures a strong, peaceful mind and lets your true self emerge, guiding every word and action. Keep practicing this ancient Stoic art. Up next, learn the power of naming emotions clearly. Subscribe and share your journey below. Lesson 3. Naming the emotion with clarity. Emotions drift into the mind like early morning mist over a sleeping lake, silent, subtle, and shapeless to the untrained eye. Each day, feelings rise within you, sometimes soft as fog, at other times as fierce and sudden as a gust tearing across the water. What power they possess to drive your actions, to cloud your vision, or to ignite the disciplined fire that propels you forward. Yet so often they remain obscured, enigmatic shadows known only by the ripple effects they produce on the surface of your life. Many people experience this haunting vagueness. They sense something stirring deeply within, yet cannot name it, and as a result, are swept about by its force, blind at the helm as the emotional winds dictate their course. The struggle with clarity is something nearly everyone faces. One moment you feel uneasy after a meeting with your boss, then quickly distract yourself or brush it off. Hours later, the tension lingers, spilling quietly into interactions with loved ones or coloring your perspective with a heaviness that was never consciously addressed. Or perhaps you find yourself suddenly tired or irritated, but cannot trace its roots. Beneath the layers of hurry and habit, the real emotion is never acknowledged directly, and as such, it wields silent control. Mistakenly, you call anxiety stress, frustration anger, or sadness boredom. Instead of meeting the inner truth head-on, you operate at the mercy of misunderstood and unnamed forces. Your intentions scattered, focus blurred. Day after day, your mind becomes like a captain steering through mist without a compass, sensing danger but unable to map its shape. This is the heart of a challenge that quietly saps self-discipline and emotional mastery. When emotions remain nameless, they grow tangled. Like wild vines left to climb unchecked, they wrap around thoughts and choices until you become unsure where the feeling ends and the truth begins. Such confusion breeds self-doubt, clouds your ability to communicate, and often leads to regrettable choices acted on in haste. Far too many journeys of personal growth falter, not for lack of will, but because people cannot clearly see the emotional landscape they travel through. There is no greater barrier to mastering your emotions than allowing them to remain murky, undifferentiated shapes, ignorant of their own power. Now, imagine the transformative strength that comes from simply calling each emotion by its true name. Naming is the first act of stewardship, turning confusion into comprehension and powerlessness into calm, deliberate purpose. Picture again the silent archer. Before aiming, he assesses not only the distance and wind, but identifies exactly what moves in the clearing ahead, whether deer or shadow, friend or foe. Clarity sharpens the senses. In life, when you pause, look within, and say honestly, I feel anxious, I am disappointed, this is envy, not anger, you perform a remarkable feat of self-mastery. The swirling mist begins to lift. You are able to see at last the honest shapes moving beneath the surface of your mind. And this clarity in itself brings profound relief. The act of naming an emotion is an ancient, simple wisdom that feels almost revolutionary in the modern chaos of unchecked reaction. Scientifically and philosophically, it is well understood. To label a feeling with accurate words pulls it out of shadow, disarms much of its unacknowledged force, and returns rightful control to the observer. This is no cold clinical process. It is instead like lighting a lantern in a darkened room. Suddenly, what frightened you is revealed as familiar, perhaps even manageable. The Stoic discipline to name each emotion grants you the power to guide your responses rather than relive old patterns. You shift away from the prisoner, enslaved by half-seen moods, to become the silent Stoic, alert, steady, and more attracted to truth than comfort. What unfolds from this simple discipline is not only a greater sense of mastery, but a wellspring of growth. Decision-making becomes clearer when you can speak the truth of what you feel. Connections deepen with others the moment you can name your states honestly and share them. You learn to unlock reservoirs of patience and tenderness for yourself, as each emotion arises and is met without judgment or avoidance. With every act of naming, your mind grows more disciplined, your impact steadier, your presence more unshakable. Each time you illuminate an emotional shadow, you become harder to destabilize and all the more undefeated within your own soul. What once seemed to threaten your composure now becomes the silent energy that fuels maturity and calm strength. In naming, you reclaim your role as captain, able to train your mind even through the thickest morning's mist, navigating the journey with purpose and grace. Whenever a strong feeling arises, pause and name it aloud or in your mind. This is frustration. This is disappointment. This simple act brings clarity and reduces overwhelm, helping you steer your actions calmly. Practice this naming exercise each day. Next, explore how shifting judgment into curiosity deepens emotional wisdom. Share your experience and subscribe for ongoing growth. Lesson 4. Turning judgment into curiosity. Within the great landscape of the mind, judgment appears like the sudden toll of a distant bell, sharp, instant, and final. In a world where storms constantly brew beneath the surface, it's natural to label what you feel as good or bad, victory or defeat, hope or despair. Yet imagine standing atop a high mountain at dawn, watching mist settle upon hidden valleys. Events come and go in mute procession, and just as the sun slowly reveals new paths between the shadowed hills, there lies another way to meet your emotions, one that transforms the very way you live and breathe through each storm, shifting judgment into curiosity. Every person knows the inner tension that arises from self-judgment. Perhaps you react sharply to frustration, and in the very next heartbeat, criticize yourself for losing your patience. Maybe you feel the chill of fear before a challenge and condemn yourself for perceived weakness. For many, the process is automatic. An emotion comes, and the harsh inner voice swiftly decides, naming it wrong, unbecoming, or weak. That voice echoes old lessons learned in childhood from media and from peers, creating an archive of reflexes that pretend to protect but only bind tighter. Far from moving you forward, this reflexive judgment fastens your soul to a wooden dock on a stormy sea, leaving your inner ship unable to launch. Self-criticism and shame become the anchors that slow your emotional mastery, making emotional growth feel impossible. This relentless habit isn't just personal. Society is awash in it. From a young age, people absorb the need to catalog not just their behaviors, but their very feelings as worthy or unworthy. When you slip into sadness or anger, there's a reflex to judge. This shouldn't be happening. I should be better. I am failing. But what really happens in these moments? Emotional storms only grow in strength when buried under judgment. Shame compounds anxiety, frustration sharpens into anger, and subtle pain gets coated in layers of resistance until understanding seems out of reach. The mind, instead of an open field, becomes a battleground littered with the remnants of conflict. Now, imagine returning to that silent mountain, breathing in thin, clear air as sunrise gilds every shape in gold. A different approach is possible, one rooted in the heart of Stoic wisdom, curiosity. Instead of reacting with condemnation to your feelings, you greet them with gentle inquiry. What is this emotion truly trying to say? What events stirred this reaction in me? How does my body respond when sadness or anger arrives? These questions carry the ancient torchlight of philosophers and wise souls. Men and women who knew that real strength is found not in denial, but in exploration. Curiosity turns your mind into the archer, calm, patient, measuring the wind before loosing the arrow. It is the ship's captain, charting the stars instead of cursing rough waves, devoted to understanding the journey as much as the destination itself. Turning judgment into curiosity is more than a trick. It is the key to emotional liberation. With curiosity, you become the silent, stoic observer, witnessing your passing thoughts with open, unflinching eyes. Each moment becomes an investigation, an unfolding, rather than a condemnation. This subtle but profound shift breaks the chains of self-criticism and makes space for compassion, growth, and genuine power. Instead of shrinking away from uncomfortable feelings, you now see them as teachers. You unlock perspective and gain access to the quieter strengths within. Your mind steadies, unclouded by harsh critiques. Your self-trust becomes unshakable. Curiosity is the fire that quietly burns in the disciplined soul, providing warmth and illumination through the coldest nights. By embracing this practice, everything changes. Emotional pain softens, problem-solving grows easier, calm settles where chaos used to reign. Your relationships expand as you become more understanding, first with yourself, then with others. Most of all, you gain a deep resilience, one forged in patience and understanding, not in force or denial. Judgment narrows your world, but curiosity unlocks it. As you release the old ways of labeling each feeling as enemy or failure, you make space for transformation. In this unlocked mental landscape, mastery walks in quietly, and your journey towards becoming undefeatable truly begins. The next time you notice a difficult emotion, pause and gently ask yourself, what is this feeling here to teach me? Approach each reaction with wonder rather than blame. This simple habit melts self-judgment and brings freedom and growth. Continue this journey. Next, discover how choosing purposeful response, not resistance, unlocks true self-mastery. Share below, subscribe, and stay curious. Lesson 5. Choosing response over resistance. A river flowing swiftly through rocky canyons sometimes meets an obstacle, yet it never stubbornly slams against stone with futile anger. Instead, it pauses, swirls, and finds the surest way to continue on, having touched the obstacle but not bent itself out of shape. Imagine for a moment your own life as water encountering boulders of emotion. Fear, frustration, envy, or disappointment. You may find within yourself the habit of bracing tightly, steeling against the current, as though by resisting you could stop the rush of feeling itself. This impulse to resist, to tense your mind, deny, or fight your own reactions, can feel fierce and necessary, like a last defense against being overwhelmed or altered by emotion. Consider those moments, familiar to everyone on the path of self-mastery, where resistance becomes the default. You feel irritation rise in traffic and attempt to push it away, determined not to let it disturb you, only to grow more agitated with every delay. Or perhaps you witness sadness welling up in your chest and immediately summon thoughts to deny it, insisting you should feel happier, stronger, different than you are. The effort to resist can masquerade as strength, but deep inside, you sense a mounting fatigue, a tug of war that never truly ends in victory. The harder you steel yourself, the more the emotion pounds at your defenses, each wave draining energy, clarity, and your natural composure. This cycle of resistance and suppression is widespread, fueled by ideas that equate Stoicism with emotional coldness or believe self-control means banishing all inconvenient feelings. The practical reality is otherwise. Like a sword that dulls each time it's hammered uselessly against stone, your inner resolve weakens whenever you meet emotion only with force or denial. The internal dialogue becomes cluttered with frustration. Why am I feeling this again? Or, I shouldn't let this bother me. Over time, these scripted responses chip away at self-trust, lock you into patterns of pent-up tension, and unravel your authenticity with others. Left unchecked, resistance does not create peace. It fosters the very chaos it fears. Yet, hidden within the flow of adversity, the Stoics offer a powerful solution, both accessible and transformative, to consciously choose response rather than resistance. Instead of denying or battling the emotion, you pause with the intention not to fight, but to choose, with purpose and clarity, what to do next. This response is not passive acceptance, nor is it reckless surrender. It is the artful pause that turns the archer's trembling hand steady, letting him truly aim before release. Imagine training your mind to acknowledge the sensation honestly, accept its presence, and then act from your deepest principles and intentions, rather than from blind habit or fear. The core idea is as ancient as it is revolutionary. Freedom comes not from shutting the door on feeling, but from calmly deciding how you will carry it forward. By shifting even a moment from reaction to reflection, you invite a ripple of control that expands to every part of your life. When irritation stirs, you might simply say to yourself, "This is irritation. I feel it. What will serve me here?" With practice, this pause and chosen response become a form of self-respect, a commitment to meeting your own experience with dignity. The world no longer dictates your mood or behavior at random. You restore power to your own hands. No emotion, no matter how strong, can master you when you learn to shape your response, not merely resist its presence. Visualize the difference. The Stoic soul standing silent before an emotional storm, unmoved by the first flash of lightning, quietly watching, then speaking or acting with measured wisdom. Every moment you practice this, you become more undefeatable, develop magnetic calm, and open the path to deeper, authentic connection with others. Choosing response over resistance unlocks a freedom that is keenly attractive because it signals resilience, presence, and genuine strength. When you train your mind in this way, you convert even the wildest current into the force that propels you, never floods your spirit, and finally becomes your inner source of peace and progress. When you sense emotion rising, pause, breathe, and calmly choose your next step, rather than pushing the feeling away. This consistent practice transforms tension into confidence and poise, grounding every action. Begin applying it today. Soon you'll discover the strength of purposeful stillness. Share how this shift feels for you, and subscribe for the lessons that follow. Lesson 6. Power from purposeful stillness. In life's most chaotic moments, imagine standing in the heart of a raging storm, while an oasis of calm radiates from within you. The wind howls, emotions threaten to pull you in every direction, and yet, at your center, there is an imperturbable stillness, a quiet so deep it feels like a sacred fire burning behind your ribs. There's no panic in those eyes, no frantic movement, just the unwavering poise that marks those who know the source of their own power. This quality, purposeful stillness, distinguishes those who are merely reactive from those who master their emotions and eventually their fate. We all know the inner turbulence that comes when life throws the unexpected in our path. Perhaps you receive an urgent message with bad news. Maybe you face conflict at work or an unexpected disappointment in your relationships. The instinct for many in these moments is a desperate scramble to fix, to defend, to run, or argue or shout, anything to fill the anxious silence. Like captains on a storm-lashed sea desperately wrestling with the wheel, each action feels essential, yet nothing seems to bring you closer to true safety. The deeper reality is that, when emotions surge and your world shakes, constant activity often chases peace further away. The struggle, then, is more universal than it first appears. Our culture ties value to motion. Busyness is worn as a badge, and quick reactions seem like proof of control and competence. But all too often this frantic pace is little more than running in place. Motion without true progress, distraction clouding judgment, and reaction draining the reservoir of inner strength. Underneath it all is the quiet exhaustion felt by so many who seek stability and confidence, but rarely allow themselves the gift of pausing in genuine silence. There emerges a haunting sense many recognize. If I stop moving, I will fall behind. Or, if I'm not doing something, I won't be enough. This fear creates unending mental noise, and the more we chase solutions on the outside, the further away tranquility and clarity seem to drift. But let us imagine a different possibility, one taught by both Stoic philosophy and the quiet wisdom of stillness. That embracing a deliberate pause in the whirlwind brings greater power than any ceaseless activity. The practice is both ancient and urgently modern, an act of refusing to be pulled along by every emotional current, and instead collecting yourself at the center, as the archer does before the shot, or the ship's captain as he consults the stars in a darkened sea. To cultivate purposeful stillness is to reclaim the mind's sovereignty over circumstance. It is not inertia or avoidance. It is not resignation or withdrawal. Instead, it is the fertile ground from which clear vision, wise choices, and real confidence grow. From stillness, you learn not just to weather the storm, but ride above its waves, steering toward the distant light of your purpose. The core of purposeful stillness is beautifully simple. It is the intentional act of being fully present, doing nothing, and thinking nothing other than noticing this very moment, even as difficulty or strong emotion rages around you. It is space to breathe deeply, to sense your feet on the ground, to listen to your heartbeat, and to permit yourself a single, long, unhurried pause before you decide or respond. In that sacred interval between stimulus and action, you find not only clarity, but strength, an energy that radiates outward, altering the very feel of a room, the trajectory of an argument, or the mood that threatens to poison your day. Those who master this art slowly transform, learning that true strength is never about rigidity, but about the power to choose your course. Sometimes a bold word, sometimes a gentle silence. The benefits grow swiftly apparent. Daily anxieties begin to lose their grip. Conflicts become easier to face, and you are respected for your calm, steadfast energy. Others are drawn to you, sensing an inner gravity they may not understand but deeply crave. Purposeful stillness unlocks not only emotional control, but the quiet magnetism of someone who does not falter with every wind change. Through this practice, you reclaim the reality that you are not the sum of reflexes to the world's noise, but the silent Stoic whose self-possession lights the way for yourself and others, even through the wildest night. When strong emotion or chaos arises, pause, close your eyes if you can, and reconnect with your breath until a sense of calm returns. With regular practice, stillness becomes your anchor, bringing clarity and confidence in any storm. Embrace this today. Next, unlock how fear itself can be transformed into lasting inner strength. Share your thoughts and subscribe now. Lesson 7. Transforming fear into inner strength. At the heart of every great legend, there is a quiet, flickering fear. Like a candle stubbornly refusing to go out, even in the darkest storm. Once dismissed as weakness, this flame becomes the secret energy behind every act of courage and self-mastery. Fear is more than a passing visitor. It is the night wind that makes the ship's captain grip the wheel tighter, the cold rain that tests the warmth of our inner fire. Imagine the moments in your own life when anxiety sent a chill up your spine or uncertainty stopped you just short of your goals. These are the crossroads where most turn back, mistaking fear for a locked gate rather than what it truly is, the beginning of a powerful transformation. If you look closely, the inner battle with fear is one of the most universal and lonely conflicts on the road to emotional strength and self-discipline. Maybe you fear failure, and so you linger in comfort zones, questioning every impulse to try or to speak out. Perhaps your fear appears as self-doubt, quietly whispering that any attempt to change will surely unravel. Or it might arrive unannounced at night, tightening your chest with worries about the unexpected, until sleep itself becomes unreachable. In these moments, fear feels overwhelming, and the urge to hide, avoid, or distract yourself becomes almost irresistible. The real pain does not only come from fear itself, but from mistakenly believing that fear exposes only weakness and vulnerability, never possibility. The problem is deep and persistent. Nearly everyone has been taught at some point to suppress fear, or to fight against it with all their might, as if it were poison in the water. But what happens? The fear returns twofold, less understood, more deeply rooted, and robbing you of the energy to move forward. More than this, when fear is only battled and never befriended, it grows into an invisible barrier, limiting growth, creativity, and genuine connection. You might avoid opportunities to learn something new or step into leadership, thinking, "I am simply not brave," when in reality, bravery is not the absence of fear, but the way you choose to meet it. There is a wiser, more impactful path, a perspective that has endured across centuries in Stoic teaching and can transform the quality of your life, to make fear your ally rather than your enemy. This approach does not mean passivity or naive acceptance, but rather deliberate engagement. Picture the seasoned archer, arrow nocked, feeling the adrenaline shake in his arms just before letting go. He does not curse the tremor. He uses it to sharpen his attention, attune his senses, and channel energy into perfect release. Such transformation is available to you as well. Transforming fear means asking, what is this fear pointing me toward? And in what way can it instruct or fuel my next step? The core of this practice is intimate and hopeful. By observing fear without flinching, you see it as a messenger, giving you information about your deepest goals, dreams, or needs. Sometimes fear shows where you care most, about succeeding, being loved, or making a meaningful impact. The act of listening to your fear gently unlocks the door to a greater clarity about your own priorities and hidden strengths. Through accepting and understanding the true message in your fear, you reclaim the reins of your experience, choose how to respond, and open new channels of self-trust. Those who master this over time become the silent Stoics whose inner calm has the force to steady entire rooms or attract the confidence of others without saying a word. Fear then is not a curse but an invitation, an inner compass guiding you not away from difficulty, but toward everything your heart truly desires. By learning to harness it, you unlock unmatched emotional control, deepen your impact, and experience the slow rising of a strength that no storm can put out, just as the ancient Stoics intended. This way of being is not born in a single act of will, but in the daily courage to welcome fear, ask what it truly means, and let it fuel the next bold step on your journey. When fear appears, pause and welcome it without judgment. Ask, what is this fear teaching me? And let its message guide your next step. As you practice this, fear becomes a powerful force for growth and courage. Begin today and watch your inner strength quietly rise with each encounter. Your transformation starts right now. You've just explored the journey from recognizing fear to shaping inner strength, learning timeless Stoic practices for emotional mastery and resilience. Thank you for joining us on this path of growth and insight. If you found value here, please like, comment with your reflections, and subscribe to support our channel's continued wisdom.